A priest, a rabbi, and an imam walk into a bar. They order mixed drinks. Don't worry, the imam orders a mocktail. The bartender pours the proper ingredients into the 3 glasses and then pulls out a small stick, a swizzle stick. Let's say this is a fancy place, so our swizzle stick is made of glass. She takes that swizzle stick and gives each of the tumblers a little swizzle. And thus those disparate ingredients, those discrete layers of stuff, suddenly transform into tasty concoctions that will delight the palates of our 3 clerics. Oh, you were expecting a punchline. This is TEDx, not a comedy club. That transformation of raw ingredients is the wonder of swizzling. Just like our bartender, you too can swizzle the world in being a better place. That's right. You can make changes with swizzling. Swizzling disrupts the status quo in order to bring about something new. But we tend to confuse this creative disruption with the disruption caused by chaos agents. So I want to talk about those chaos agents first. Let me introduce swizzling's ugly step-sibling, pot stirring. You know pot stirring, even if you don't know the term. Pot stirring has to do with those people who have to just get in there and mess things up for no good reason. They do it just to indulge themselves. Pot stirring, people who pot stir are compelled to sow doubts, create tension, and cause conflict. All in the name of their own wants and self-interest. Pot stirring affects change, but the change is regressive, scattershot, destructive even. In contrast, Swizzlers are creators. Think of the bartender's little stick. It breaks the stasis of those ingredients to open opportunity for a new order. Never just for the sake of it, like a pot stirrer. Swizzlers are reformers, iconoclasts, leaders. They disdain incrementalism and smash stagnant order, yes, but to bring about new possibilities. Maybe you've seen these 2 types in your own lives, Swizzlers and pot stirrers. How did you respond? Now, I know all this because I'm a Swizzler from way back, and perhaps so are you. When I was a student at a boys' Catholic high school outside of Philadelphia, I was co-manager of the stage crew, which meant I was in charge of building all the sets for the school's plays. That's right, I was king of the nerds. I learned through the grapevine, aka my girlfriend, that the girls' Catholic high school next door didn't allow their stage crew to handle proper tools. I had to see this for myself, so I went over there. Picture this scene. Teenage girls in their school uniforms trying to cut thin sheets of plywood with oversized craft shears. Their hands were all bloody, blistered. I was appalled. Something had to be done. Even at that young age, I believed that the world would only be a better place if we could move toward gender equality. That, and I was just a big fan of teenage girls in general. So, driven almost as much by adolescent hormones as by my indignity at the injustice of the status quo, I had an idea. And in classic Swizzler fashion, I didn't ask permission, I just went ahead and gave it a swirl. I invited the girls to join the boys' stage crew. Frankly, I almost got in a world of trouble. How I escaped is a tale for another day, but I could have been expelled. Instead, picture this scene. Teenage girls and boys working side by side, ripping sheets of plywood with power saws to their heart's content. A year after I graduated, I learned that the stage crew was still gender integrated. Now, my high school hijinks were admittedly small potatoes. One of the great properties of swizzling is that you can scale it up from the local high school to affect change throughout nations and even the world. We can find people stirring up truth and justice and progress across history. In fact, if you're inclined to swizzle, you're part of a distinguished lineage. From freedom fighters such as Sojourner Truth and Nelson Mandela, to transformative artists such as Toni Morrison and Louise Bourgeois. Jackson Pollock literally painted in swizzles. These innovators stirred things up and disrupted established patterns to bring about something novel. Jesus challenged religious orthodoxy, as did Muhammad. Socrates may very well have invented swizzling. While there are Swizzlers who have won Nobel Prizes and other accolades, many of them have suffered much, some paying the ultimate price. Some of the most successful Swizzlers have taken massive risks and faced adversity to become the change they wish to see in the world. Speaking of which, Gandhi is a mega Swizzler. Contrast that generosity with the self-indulgence of the pot star. These troublemakers risk little because they generally stir where it's safe. They do it for themselves and for the fun of watching other people squirm. Most pot stars are classic bullies bent on chaos, while Swizzlers are out to serve the greater good. My wife Marie and I embarked on a memorable swizzling adventure when we moved to Baltimore, Maryland, a tough blue-collar city. Our neighborhood was rife with crime, and violence always threatened just beneath the surface. Most of our neighbors just wanted to lay low. A very small handful of newcomers, such as ourselves, wanted something better. Then there were the pot stirrers. The drug dealers were the main pot stirrers, whipping up chaos to cover their activities. I give Marie the credit here. She's a Swizzler too, and she got us swizzling like we had never swizzled before. For years, we chased drug dealers off of corners, led community meetings, and staged events to disrupt the dealer's business. Our reward? We ticked off nearly everyone. The dealers, of course, that was the point, and so be it. But the cops were displeased with us. It wasn't until a new police commander came into our district that we started getting cooperation from law enforcement. And while we had those few allies among the newcomers, most of the new neighbors just hoped it would all magically go away. But none of that was anything like the fury of the old neighbors. They saw us as disrupting a carefully calibrated equilibrium. The drug dealers controlling the streets and them cowering inside. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that after a few years of this, one of the old neighbors took Marie to court. It doesn't matter what for. We easily got it thrown out. But that led us directly to finding a mediator who'd work with the whole neighborhood, minus the drug dealers. Soon we were collaborating. Old neighbors, new neighbors, cops, city officials. We built a better, far more diverse neighborhood without the displacements of gentrification. All of that from some epic swizzling. By the way, that police commander I mentioned, Frederick Bielfeld, in 2007, he became the police commissioner. Turns out he's a major Swizzler too, whipping up the status quo of the Baltimore police by retraining each and every officer in new policing approaches. While doing so didn't win him a lot of friends at the time, the results tell the tale. The colossal murder rate plummeted to levels not seen since the 1970s. Meanwhile, the number of arrests plunged 55% from over 100,000 to 45,000. Still far too many, but a tremendous improvement. Much lower crime with far fewer arrests, that takes an expert Swizzler. So although Marie and I were the principal leaders in our neighborhood, we remained on the outs with many, which is often the fate of the Swizzler, to spend time in the wilderness and sometimes to never emerge. Swizzlers face such opposition because they disrupt the status quo, which people instinctively protect. This status quo bias is well documented and may even be hardwired. A 2011 study in the Journal of Neuroscience looked at fMRI brain scans that related status quo bias and regret. The neural images suggested that most people would rather face the consequences of doing nothing than trying something and having to face failure. Not surprisingly, the Swizzler has a different approach. They'd much rather risk utter failure than allow things to stagnate, to allow those drinks to remain unmixed. But it isn't all rail liquor and simple syrup, and Swizzling's downside is far bleaker than a hangover. Some of the most revered Swizzlers were vilified in their day. Martin Luther King Jr., now just about a secular saint, was loathed on the day of his assassination in 1968. Gallup surveys indicate that by 1966, he was deeply disliked, particularly among white Americans. By 2011, he was almost universally loved across racial lines. The rehabilitation of his reputation corresponded with the whitewashing of his message, though, which was far more radical than we often portray it. The good news is that his swizzling brought about a new era. Even a celebrated artist such as Bob Dylan can never escape the onus of his swizzling. While not as momentous as spearheading the US Civil Rights Movement, Dylan has swizzled like mad to transform music and has faced backlash again and again. A recent biopic about him climaxes with his public humiliation as he shifted musical styles. His biography is filled with moments when his art changed and fans struggled to keep up. Each time, though, his swizzling brought about a new artistic sensibility that's had unparalleled influence on popular music. The good news is that Swizzlers emerge in every generation. Greta Thunberg is a classic Swizzler. Her activism brought attention to climate change at a critical juncture, which won her many awards and earned her intense pushback. Her powerful enemies mock her age, her looks, her personality, her passion, anything to avoid engaging her ideas. YouGov polls indicate that 77% of American respondents recognize her name, yet her popularity remains underwater by 23 points. Thunberg is widely known and deeply disliked. That she persists is a testament to her resilience. That her opponents continue to attack is a testament to the impact of her swizzling. But she and we have a long way to go. And that's the thing with Swizzlers. They'd rather make progress than make friends. It's not that they're antisocial. It's just that their cause is paramount. Which brings me to my plea. This talk itself is a modest attempt at swizzling. I'm trying to stir up interest in people who disrupt the status quo to effect positive change. And you could be a real hero here. Perhaps you're already thinking of areas in your own world that could use a good swizzle. Well, I'm not going to say, go forth and swizzle. Swizzling's almost a vocation, a calling. It's not for everyone. Here's my ask instead. When you encounter someone who's willing to challenge comfortable untruths to get at the real truth, don't just write them off as a pot star. Try this. Offer a kind word. Lend them a hand. Be an ally. Now, if during my talk you've somehow realized that maybe you're a pot stirrer, stop. Just stop. What are you thinking? On the other hand, if you've realized that perhaps you're a swizzler, keep the faith. You're not alone, and your leadership is needed. Without swizzling, the world stagnates. Those ingredients sit in the glasses unmixed. The world needs people who are willing and able to stir things up, to make it a better place. The world needs Swizzlers and their allies to keep it spinning. The world needs you. Thank you.